Hey everyone, Rachel here from Curly Quilt, and today I'm back here with you with another video in my series Learn Your Sewing Machine. Today we are going to be working on the Janome Skyline S9 machine again, but this video is going to be going over how to change your needle, clean over here, change your presser foot, and then I'm also going to show you how to clean underneath your needle plate. These three things are important, especially changing the needle and cleaning under your needle plate. A lot of times when we have issues with tension or skip stitches, the two biggest culprits are one, a dull needle, and then two, lint buildup underneath our needle plate and underneath our bobbin case area. So first thing I'm going to do is going to show you how to take out your needle. So my machine came with a special little screwdriver to loosen the screw right here. Each sewing machine will have a different style screwdriver. Some are universal, some are not. So I'm just going to turn it towards me because that's lefty-loosey. And then all you have to do is pull the needle directly out. I'll show you how to put it in, but first I'm going to show you how to change the foot out. So whenever I have my needle out, I actually like to tighten the screw just to make sure that nothing gets wiggled around or anything like that. And then what I'm also going to do is take this opportunity to use my little cleaning brush and clean out any lint in this area. You guys are going to notice here the type of foot I have on my machine currently is called, Janome calls it an AccuFeed foot. It's really just a walking foot. The difference is that the way that it's set up on Janome. And so I usually use this for most of my sewing because I can actually just pop this little, what they call a sole off. And then I have one that's a 1/4 inch. A 1/4 inch. So when I do any piecing of quilt tops, I'll usually have my 1/4 inch walking foot on. Or if I need to do any decorative stitching, I'll just pop on the regular decorative stitch foot. But today I'm going to show you how to take this foot off and then put on a regular foot. A lot of sewing machines today come with this style presser foot. It's called a snap-on. So when it sits on the machine, it looks like this. And then there's this black button in the back that if you press it, it releases the little foot. Okay, just so you guys know that this piece is called an ankle, right? This is your ankle, which makes sense. This is what sits here on the machine, and then it's this little arch here is what holds the different style feet. So on any presser, on any snap-on style presser foot, you usually just literally snap on the foot like that. And this button back here releases it. So let me show you guys again. And I'll show you this when it's on the machine itself. So first we're going to just again take our little screwdriver. I like this one because it's a good length to it. You're going to have different style ones. My machine is nice because there's enough room underneath the needle here that I can get both my hands kind of underneath there. Makes it really easy to change my needle out, change my presser foot out. So more inexpensive machines will obviously have a shorter workspace here, and it can become a little bit more difficult to have to change your feet out. So that might be something to consider when purchasing a machine if you have maybe arthritis or maybe you have bigger hands, because I have very small hands. I'm 5'8" and my hands are smaller than my 14-year-old sister, so that just kind of gives you an idea. I have very small hands, so the fact that I can actually put mine under here, the fact that that's a special thing is kind of weird. So anyway, so all I had to do was loosen the screw. For the presser foot, it's away from you, because if you were looking directly at the screw, that would be lefty-loosey. And then again, I don't tighten it all the way, but I tighten it enough so that way I know it's not going to fall out and I'm not going to lose it. As you can see, there's lots of little teeny tiny pieces on a sewing machine, and having to replace those can kind of add up. It can be kind of annoying, especially if you have an older machine. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to take our needle plate off on my machine on the Janome Skyline S9. On all the Skyline series, it's a little lever here that you pull up. and then you can see it just pops right up, which is really nice. On a lot of sewing machines, especially smaller machines or more inexpensive machines, you usually have 1 or 2 screws in the needle plate itself, and you have to unscrew them, which can be pretty tedious, especially if you're doing a lot of quilting. So because you're going to have to get in here. As you can see, I mean, I haven't done that much on my machine lately, and yet there's a lot of lint buildup in there. And I clean my machine very regularly because 1, it's really easy, and 2, I do a lot of work with cotton fabric. Okay, so first thing I like to do is just pull my bobbin out. You guys are going to notice this is the one that we wound together. And if you're wanting to know how to wind your bobbin and install it, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link in the description below to a video I just did on how to wind a bobbin and put it in the bobbin case for you. And if you're wondering, this is your bobbin case. As you can see, there's a little bit of lint on here. And what this does is this sits in what's called the hook area. This is called the hook area. Basically, this is how a sewing machine works, right? So the thread from down here, so the needle comes down. If there's a needle in there, the needle would come down. It would pick up the bobbin thread and then pull it back up, and then that's what creates a stitch on a sewing machine. So as you guys can see, there is a lot of lint in here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my little cleaning brush again. You're just going to take a little cleaning brush. There's some bigger style ones too that you can use. I just kind of like to gently pull it out and get, especially right here in this area, you're going to see it's really gummy. You definitely want to get in between your feed dogs. So if you're struggling to get some fabric, your fabric's not feeding through correctly, it could be because you have a bunch of lint right here in the feed dogs. You can see that builds up really quickly. I've seen people who've owned their sewing machines for like, I don't know, 10 years, and they've never ever taken the plate off and never cleaned it. And the lint was so packed up, you couldn't even see between the feed dogs. The lint was like literally just like, and it was hard pieces of fuzz. It's good. It's gross. And I mean, like I said, it builds up fast. I've only done a few projects on this machine. You can see, look at all this lint. Trying to keep it on the side here so I can make a little ball for you so you can see. And you want to be really careful, especially on a computerized machine. Underneath in this area, there's a lot of wires and things like that. So number one thing is you never, ever, ever, ever want to use canned air to clean out this area of your sewing machine. Because what's happening if you're spraying air, it's just going to push it farther in underneath. And then it will really hit, put more pressure on any kind of wires and things like that that are connected to like the computer screen, and that can cause a lot of issues for you too. So if you have like a mini vacuum or a vacuum with mini attachments, I would highly recommend that instead. You can see here, I'm trying to get a little close up here for you. See all the fuzz and how it builds up and everything like that. So you really want to just kind of get in there, take your time, and clean it out. And so I would recommend, if you're mostly working with cotton fabric like I do as a quilter, you're definitely going to want to clean this out every 3 to 4 bobbin runs, really. I know that's annoying, but trust me, it just makes life easier for you. It's going to make sure that your machine lasts a long time, and it's going to make sure that you don't have to bring your machine in for service quite as much. I also have this like sheep's wool duster. I'm just kind of getting it in there to get all the dust off the side here. And that looks pretty good. I have a second brush too. You definitely want to have multiple brushes and things like that on hand to keep it clean. And then right here in this area, on the style bobbin hook, if you need to oil your machine, this would be the only place that you would put it as a general user. I would really recommend, if you're not using the machine, if you haven't used it in a long time, to just go ahead and take it in for servicing. Let a professional technician oil and lubricate it and things like that. If you notice when you touch this piece of metal, like I have like a little bit of oil that comes up on my finger, that's good. That means it's well lubricated and everything like that. I've had my machine service recently, so I'm not worried about it. But say it's been a year since it was serviced and you're noticing maybe it's making some clacking noises, just put a little drop of oil right there, very, very small, and then run it through. And then you should be fine. Okay. And then I'm just going to clean out the bobbin case. So this is part of how the top loading bobbin works. So you can imagine if there's a bunch of lint and dust in here, it's not going to work properly for you. Look there. It likes to hide. And this is also a good opportunity whenever you take this out to check out your bobbin case. See how everything's nice and smooth here? There's no puncture marks or anything like that. This plastic is nice and smooth. That's what it should look like, okay? Now, if you pull out your bobbin case and you notice like a big hole in there, you might have to ask yourself, like, have I broken a needle in my machine lately? Because it could be a needle puncture mark. You want to feel this plastic and it should feel smooth. There shouldn't be any burrs or any rough spots. If there are, and you've noticed you've had some tension issues or skipped stitches, you may need to get your bobbin case replaced, okay? This is what a bobbin case is. And you want to go on, you can either go online to, a good website is sewingpartsonline.com. Type in the make and model of your machine, and usually you can find a bobbin case really easy that way, or call your local sewing machine service repair person, and they should be able to help you, especially if they deal with your brand of sewing machine. Okay, and I just want to show you guys, here's just a little bit of the lint that I pulled out of my machine. Again, I'm a very, very clean person, especially when it comes to my sewing machine. I clean it out regularly, so you can see that after just a few projects, it builds up really fast. And that was just some of it. That's not even all of it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. No more fuzzies. Everything's looking clean. I don't need to oil it at this point in time, so that's all good to go. And so what I can do is, my machine comes with a couple of different stitch plates. This is a zigzag plate because you have a nice opening. This is a straight stitch needle plate because you just have these small singular openings. I usually use that most of the time for free motion and stuff like that. But this is like your all-purpose. Okay, so for this style machine, to put your needle plate back on, you just slide it to the left, pop it down, slide my little tray back here for you. Alrighty, and then I'm going to show you how to put your foot on. Okay, so I'm going to put my basic all-purpose foot back on. As you can see here, it's kind of like a hook style right here. So basically all I have to do at this point is sort of loosen my needle, and my ankle will just actually kind of just wrap around it back here. And then I tighten this. I tighten it as much as I can with my fingers, and then I take my screwdriver and I just go until it can't tighten anymore. You don't want to do it any tighter than that because you could strip the screw. Okay, you notice I have my foot on here. This one has a little wiggle room to it. That's what you want on sort of an all-purpose foot. That way it can go over humps and things like that. And again, if I wanted to just change the foot and not the whole ankle, I would just push on that button in the back. This slides off, and then I could take whatever foot I want to put on there, say my zipper foot. And the easiest way to do this is just to kind of line it up here and lower your presser foot. And you're just going to line it up here. And then you're going to hear it click into place, and then when you lift it up, the foot will come with it. So that's how you know you've changed your presser foot. I'm going to take this off. Bing, bang, boom. So you guys can see there's a bar here. There's a bar that goes across this, and I'm just lining it with a little arch here and lowering the foot. If you don't catch it right away, that's fine. Just kind of move it back and forth, and then you'll hear it click into place, and you know you're good to go. And then I keep noticing all these little pieces of thread as I'm looking into the camera. So yeah, you want to keep your machine nice and clean. That way it'll keep running for a really long time for you. Okay, so to change our needle, let me see. I usually use the Schmetz quilting needles in a chrome finish, size 90-14. I use these for piecing my quilt tops, for quilting through all 3 layers. I'm going to be working on some Christmas stockings, quilting some Christmas stockings. So I will go ahead and use one of these needles. So I'm just going to pull it out of the package here. Anytime I have an old needle, a used needle, what I do is I have a little jar in my room that I throw all the old needles in. So that way I know that I don't get my old and used old and new needles mixed up. Okay, so then you're going to notice on a needle you have a flat side and a rounded side. On most modern machines, so anything, you know, 1980s and newer, you're always going to have the flat to the back. If you guys want to check out my other, I have a vintage sewing machine and I show you how to install a needle on that one. On a lot of vintage machines, it's completely different. So you definitely want to make sure you know how your needle goes in. Pull out your instruction manual. Yes, pull that baby out. I know we don't like to read it sometimes, but you want to make sure you review your instruction manual. Another good indicator is when you first change your needle, like from, you know, you bought a new machine and you're changing the needle for the first time, make sure you pay attention to how the needle was installed, and that'll be a great indicator for you. Okay, so I had tightened this a little bit, so I'm just going to loosen it a little bit. I'm going to put my flat to the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it up. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me see if I can check. So if you keep an eye out right here, this little window, you guys are going to notice you can see the tip of the needle. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more here. Can you guys see that? It's kind of hard to see. There's a little thing right there. You want to make sure your needle's up in the highest position. A really good thing to do would be to kind of rest it on your nail here and then just tighten it. A little safety tip here at this point, please make sure that your foot control is unplugged. If you have a locking capability on your machine, you should lock it. So that way if you're holding your needle in, I don't usually put it on my nail personally. I usually just hold it, and I have good enough strength in my fingers that I can just pinch and hold it and pull it all the way up and not have to worry about it being in the correct position. Just because if you turn on your sewing machine and it starts sewing and you have your fingernail underneath it, it could, you know, go through your finger, which would be really painful. Again, so if you have a locking mechanism of some sort, or even just turn your machine off to install your needle, that's a really good safety measure. Alright, so we took our needle plate off, we cleaned up underneath there. I showed you guys how to change your presser foot and how to change your needle. Now, once you have it in there, you want to make sure that when you turn the hand wheel and it goes down all the way, it doesn't hit anything. That way you'll know it's up all the way in there. Okay, I don't feel it hitting anything, so it looks like it's in good shape there. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys how to thread the needle. So let me go ahead and pause this and then I'll bring it up. Okay, so if you guys watched the... So if you guys watched the video from yesterday, I'll show you again just in case. You always start with your thread facing upwards, and one, you want to make sure you're using good thread. Please do not use old thread that's on a wooden spool. Nothing older than 5 years. And please do not use Coats & Clark and Dual Duty on a sewing machine, especially a new computerized one. You're just going to set yourself up for failure. Your thread is like your gasoline in your car. Without good thread, the machine's not going to go well for you. Okay, it's kind of like owning a Mercedes or a race car and putting cheap unleaded gas in it. It's just not going to work out for you. Okay. All right, so you have your thread standing up this way. I always tilt it to the left, slide it onto the pin. You want to make sure you're using a spool cap that's either the same size as your thread or a little bit smaller than. That way the thread doesn't get caught up on the spool cap itself. Okay, so when threading the needle, I always kind of give it a little pinch with my right hand. I'm going to bring it back here and around here. Okay. Show you guys again. This is a Janome Skyline S9. And there's little numbers and arrows printed on the cover itself. So I'm going to pinch it with my right hand. Bring it around. Bring it to the back. Bring it down. Then I have to kind of lower the camera here really quick for you. As you can see, there's numbers on my machine with arrows to make it really easy. I'm just pinching the thread again. Now the first thing you want to make sure of is that your needle's in the highest position. So on a machine with a needle up, needle down option, go ahead and go needle down, needle up, and then that way I know my take-up bar is in the correct position. I also know my needle is going to be in the correct position to use the needle threader. Okay? You also want to make sure that your presser foot is up. So if your presser foot's not up, make sure that's up, because that's how you get your thread seated into the tension discs when you have automatic tension. Okay, so I'm going to bring it up and around like that. And let me see if I can bring it a different position. Here we go here. I'm going to show you guys again. I'm going to bring it around, behind, down, around, up and around, and it should just catch itself. This isn't like the vintage machine where we have to like kind of thread it through anything. So now the next step right here for you. Okay, let me zoom in again. Again, I'm kind of coming, my right hand's up top, giving it some tension. I'm going to come behind here, and then there's a little hook right here. See how it just clicked into place there? That's really important if you have any sort of needle threader built into your machine. You're always going to have to catch it on something right above the needle. So I'm catching it there. On this particular machine, I have to click it up right there. It's going to click into place. See, kind of it's holding itself right there. And then you want to bring it back and use the manual cutter on the side and cut the extras off, okay? And then with this style needle threader, all I have to do is pull it down. It loops it through for me, and then there's a little loop on the back. And so I just pull the loop through, and then my needle's threaded. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys that again from the beginning. I know there's kind of some awkwardness here just because of the setup. Pull this out a little bit. And one of the other sort of tips I want to give you guys is whenever you are changing the thread on your needle, you're changing a color, what you want to do is clip the thread up top. And then you want to pull the thread from the needle, okay? You never want to pull backwards, because what that does is it causes lint buildup in here, because the fibers can peel off in here. You might pull on a tension wire or something like that. Okay, so we have our thread up here with our spool cap on. My presser foot is up, and my needle is in the highest position. So then I'm going to take my thread, I'm going to give it a little tension. Oops. I'm going to bring it around town, bring it down, up and around, so then it catches itself, and then grab this. Gonna bring it back behind this big piece. Some machines don't have that big piece, but the Skyline series does. And there's a little guy here. I'm gonna click it into place there. And then I'm just bringing it to the thread cutter and cutting the excess. So you can see I have my thread behind there, set there, and then this is the little bar I pull down. And you have to confidently, like, pull it down, okay? And then, ta-da! There's your thread. Your needle's all thread. Alrighty guys, so we kind of went through a lot of information today. We learned how to take our needle plate off, clean underneath it. We changed our presser foot from a walking foot to a regular. And we also reviewed how to change our snap-on. We changed the needle. So if there are any other questions, feel free to leave me a comment below. If you're looking to learn how to wind a bobbin or change or use a different vintage style sewing machine, I will have some videos down below. Alrighty, see you next time for the next Learn Your Machine video.